Hello and welcome to this COMP3218 video on game design and development from the University of Southampton. Today we're going to be looking at some more of our students' courseworks. This is their second piece of coursework for this module. My name is Tom Brown, I'm one of the lecturers on the course, and I am joined here today by...
So I'm Dave Millard, I'm one of the other lecturers on the course.
Fab. Dave, could you tell us what we asked the students to do for this coursework?
So this coursework was to develop a game prototype which contains a story engine that drives a branching interactive narrative. And we asked the students to write something that was based on one of three stories, all of which were taken from Aesop's fables. So the hare and the tortoise, the bear and the two travellers, or the lion and the shepherd. So it'll be interesting to see what they've come up with.
Excellent. Right, let's jump into our first game. Okay, and our first game is Swordsman to Sorcerer.
I like the title screen. Nice, consistent fonts and background and everything else, looking good.
Yeah, nice crunchy pixely graphics. All right, we've got a cutscene.
Magic potential threatens my empire and throne. Okay, that's the king.
Okay. I assume that's us being eaten by wolves. Oh, we've got to click down here where it says continue.
Oh crikey, that's a tiny continue.
I can't have you to destroy what I've built. I can't risk it.
Can't risk it. Okay, your connection to the forest and fairness of heart will be the downfall of my plans.
Right. This is what they call exposition.
Is that a child being licked by dogs? What's going on here?
I think we're.
I'm sorry, little one.
I think we have been thrown to the wolves a bit.
Okay.
Yeah, interesting.
Okay, and now we're somewhere else, presumably.
Yeah, I don't know who we are now.
Okay. Walk around using the last keys.
Press continue, then try walking around with this.
Okay.
Okay.
So I like the fact that their previous coursework was to do something with a tutorial, and this smart scheme doesn't actually say anything about a tutorial. But I really like the fact that they've remembered all of those lessons. There's a tutorial element that's good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Practice your skills on the training dummies.
It is amazing, right. The games in the past that we've seen for this coursework that we did not know how to play because they forgot all the lessons we'd taught them. So it's good to see them incorporating that in this one. Okay.
So you're attacking, your sword's flashing out, it's flashing a colour to show it's taking damage.
Yeah. Got some good sound effects. I don't know if you can hear the sound, I may not have shared that, but we've got some lovely music in the background. We've got some good sword noises. Everyone loves a good sword noise.
Yeah.
It's sort of a shame that you can't... I mean, I assume these things don't die because I've been hitting them for a while.
Yeah.
But other than that...
Can you go off the path? Yes, you can.
I can.
So that's just a... So again, I like the use of the path to kind of guide you up and out.
Yeah.
Again, sort of an example of controlling people's agency. Danger. Yeah. They always say danger. These signs never say everything's fine.
Everything fine.
To see. Open your inventory bucket. Okay, is that a... Okay, so we changed different screen. Click on your items to see a description. Okay, so they're setting this up as if there's quite a lot going on in this game. So you've got a sword.
I don't know how to close my inventory. Is it I again? I again.
I again.
Ooh, we've got a glowy thing.
There appears to be a resource of some kind on the ground.
Cool. We have +1 glowy thing. Ooh.
Yeah. Oh, there's loads of glowy things.
Brilliant. Ooh, mysterious.
8 glowy things and a guard.
A mysterious wizard, maybe? Merchant Tom.
Hello, Merchant Tom. Hello, traveller.
We found some souls.
We found some souls on the ground. We've seen a lot of those in the forest recently.
Okey-doke. Take them
okay.
off your
So
hands
we can
in exchange for some souls. No, you're taking the souls in exchange for this.
So we can sell the souls we found to some bloke for some bread or a diamond ring.
Which would you, out of the two, which would you take? I'm immediately suspicious of this choice, but the problem is I've got no information about what choice I'm making.
No,
is the bread a consumable item? Does the diamond ring give me +1 to sword? Is it just a very unfair trade? One way. Let's take the. I mean, the diamond. If I sell the diamond ring, I could buy many bread. So let's get the diamond.
Let's do that.
I didn't even offer. That's not true. You did offer that. You showed me two things.
Yeah, that's kind of weird. And then he's gone. and it's not sure what the consequence of our choice is.
Ooh.
All right, so we've got some more sources, some wolves. Yes.
Oh,
Well done for remembering to hit the wolves.
That was pretty cool. Okay, so we do have his. So he said, "Oh, I didn't even offer you that," but then gave it to us anyway.
If you click on it, what does it say?
Hang on.
Yeah,
the combat in this isn't bad actually. If I click on it, a valuable ring with a diamond only found deep within a system.
Okay.
I'm not sure what that means.
I'm worried you're going to get killed by wolves before we get into the story.
Ye of little faith.
Oh no, your health's been reset.
Oh good. See, all planned. There we go. And the souls refill your health a little bit as well. Okay. Glowy wolf.
Glowy wolf.
Injured on the. Oh, okay.
Here lies the wolf, injured on the ground.
Will you save the wolf?
Will you save the wolf?
Tame or banish?
Is it tame or banish?
So I think I can see what fable that they have based their.
Yes.
So now we have a.
The wolf now accompany you on the journey. The wolf dropped a pickaxe. Really?
Really? As everyone knows, wolves carry pickaxes.
It's a very.
Wait. So do I have a? I've got a pickaxe now. Useful for breaking rocks. Okay.
For breaking rocks. And now you've got a wolf in tow. Okay, that's kind of interesting. So I wonder if the wolf will come and defend you. You get attacked by other wolves.
So why would I banish the wolf?
Oh, I have no idea. And what was that? It ran away.
Oh, I don't know, but it's
silver. Oh, it ran into the.
Ah.
So okay.
So I wouldn't be able to break these rocks if I didn't have the pickaxe that the friendly wolf gave me.
Yeah. Okay.
That's, I think, what they call a conceptual non sequitur a bit, but
yeah.
But okay.
Never did double find any harm. Let's have a look. So we got some. So you're fighting spiders. You're picking up some souls.
Oop, did I just fall in a hole and die? Or did I... Oh no!
I can't quite see. Is the wolf fighting for you? Has the wolf died?
I think it's died. Oh, there we go. Oh, okay, so that's interesting. If it dies, it has like a little respawn timer, and then you have to go over the summoning circle type thing. That's actually nice. A nice little mechanic. I like that.
I quite like the little fog of war they've used for the cave. You can't quite see what's going on. That's quite cute.
The essence of this huge bat has been sealed with magic. Do you wish to tame this being?
Do you wish to tame this being for the cost of what?
Some souls.
10 souls? Some souls. And we can't see how many souls we have.
Can't see how many souls we've got.
And banish it to give your weapon more damage.
I can open my inventory.
Now you have a choice, right? So you can either get the thing, and we know that we get some, it comes along and fights for us, or we can banish it and get a weapon.
I'm not sure how helpful these monsters are, but sure. Well, I'll play along. It's fine.
Okay. Oh, there's another. Is that Merchant Tom?
No, this is
Merchant David. No, I was going to say earlier on. I hope there's a Merchant David, or I'm going to feel very excluded here.
Well, there you go.
Thank you for clearing that game of bats. I haven't been able to get back to my family in 3 days. As a token of action, I'll let you choose on these two things.
Now, just to be clear, you're letting us choose one of these two things, Merchant David.
Yeah.
You're not going. If I pick the magic wand, you're not going to say you weren't offering me the magic wand. Okay. Do we want to increase sword damage? I'm going to go for the magic wand.
Magic wand sounds fun.
Like increased sword damage, I know what I'm getting. Magic wand, I'm not quite sure. I've got some idea, but let's go for magic wand. Excellent choice.
I think it's a remote weapon. Do you think? I should have told you before, though. It works with people who possess magic. Okay.
I guess I possess magic.
Oh, there you are. So there you go. You've got a remote weapon. Okay. So.
All right. So.
Here's. Oh. So another. We keep seeing that thing disappearing.
I've also just realised that I'm still not quite sure how this relates to the cutscene that we saw at the start.
But also, what are we doing?
I don't know. We've gone for a walk, and
like, why are we doing this?
Oh, wait,
what's your goal?
So the cutscene at the start, the king that threw the child to the wolves said something about somebody's strong connection with nature, right? So I can only assume that we're the heir in exile or something.
That child grown up or something, but there's no.
But it's not we don't have that inciting incident. Like we don't know what we're doing here.
Yeah, the premise is not set out, and that means we don't know what we're trying to achieve. So you feel sort of a bit aimless.
So what happened to my magic wand? So yeah, are we, like trying to reclaim our kingdom, or are we just nipping down to the shops?
So I kind of the story setup I'm not feeling too sure about, but the game setup I'm quite enjoying actually. I think it's got these different areas. It all looks quite good. I mean, we'll get through the criteria in a bit, but in fact, should we?
I was going to say, should we crack on
fighting? Should we have a look at think about the presentation? So I mean, I would say that presentation-wise, if you think about the graphics and audio, information design, I mean, you've got all the health on the creatures. It's above the creatures, so you can see them. Your own health isn't above you, but it's very clear up in the top left-hand corner. It's nice and big. The inventory system's easy to use. So I would say that professional, complete and effective, that would be a good. Excellent would be impactful. Do you think this is impactful, or it's certainly professional and complete? I think.
I agree. It might even be.
I think it might be up at the next level. It is as you would expect, right? I mean, there's a few. The only criticism I think I would have is that information box at the bottom, where I've got 3 different font sizes. And there's a few little bits. But
the images on the choices aren't working. The text here kind of blends into the background. The fact that it overruns behind these, so we don't know how many souls we're spending.
But this is the very definition of niggly, isn't it? Well, I mean, it's kind of some little points, but
yes. But when we're getting to the top end of the mark scheme, that is our job. But yeah, I think you're right. It probably does hit that. So I'm going to leap ahead just a moment though, and just say I kind of like it when games do this. So I've got 2 choices, but they're both the same choice.
Yeah. Yes.
I wasn't expecting that. But yeah, so impactful or partway between professional and impactful? What do you reckon?
I think we can say it's at least halfway between the 2. I think that's a good call.
Interesting. So so far I have tamed a wolf, a bat, and a spider, which seems fine to me. Now the fact that I'm taming a goblin feels a little bit weird.
Yeah, would you like to enslave this goblin? Yes, please. The wolf and man cut me on a journey. The wolf dropped a pig. Is it a wolf or a goblin?
Somebody has. I was going to say they've connected the wrong bit of dialogue there, I believe.
Okay. Cut and paste error. We're going to resurrect your other ones.
What did you get from it? It's dropped an additional pickaxe though, so I hope the goblin wasn't meant to drop something important.
Ah, yeah.
Oh, and I can't tame the goblin. Alright, that looks like that might be a bug. I hope it's not a game-breaking one. We'll come back to that momentarily. So the next one on the list is meaningful play.
Yeah. So how would you describe it? You're the one playing the game.
Our goblin.
Why do we keep speaking to? Why does this goblin keep talking to us?
I'm going to assume that that's something like, the spirit of the forest, and they're going to help us. But again, this is like my assumption based on stories I've read before, not anything that they've told me. Yeah. Ooh, that's kind of really minor thing, but I like that. So if your pets get stuck on a tree, let me see if I can. Then if you get a certain distance away, they just teleport to follow you again. Which is a really nice touch. Like it's a bit of a. Like a little bit of a hacky solution to it, but that's exactly what you want in a prototype like this.
So let's talk about play. How are you finding it in terms of this is kind of the mechanics, the controls, whether there's any bugs or anything? I mean, it looks like there's no significant bugs here.
I was going to say I'm concerned about what that goblin dialogue.
Yeah, maybe that issue with the goblin, but in terms of the play, in terms of the fighting and the controls and everything else. You're the one playing it, but it looks to me like it's pretty engaging.
Yes. What happened to my magic wand? Was the other thing. Because I was shooting magic bolts a moment ago, but that seems to have vanished. So
It does seem to have vanished, yeah.
So there's some amount of oddness. Ooh, hang on. Dramatic
Oh,
story
there's the
moment.
king. Yeah. Let's do the dramatic story moment.
Well, I can't talk to him, unfortunately.
Ah.
Let's just walk around and... Ooh. Interesting.
The Guardian. Okay. You've done well making this far through the forest, especially considering the ruined state of the forest. Yeah. Oh, was that just repeated again? Oh,
No.
corrupted. Okay, so my fox friend guided you all the way.
Would you look at that? I was right. I have read stories before. Your father imprisoned me here years ago. The king imprisoned me.
Yes, the king. Using me for resources and weakening our magical forest. All of the trees and natural resources become corrupted, and the creatures of the forest have become more violent. Okay. Okay.
Nah.
Why would we? Nah. Why would we? But why would we not release him?
Again, we suffer from that lack of motivation, right? We don't know why we've come through this haunted, corrupted forest to the castle in the first place. If we didn't know that the king was our father, why have we even come here? It's a little bit weird. There we go. And we also just walked past him to start with.
Yeah, that's also peculiar.
Oh, stop.
Stop!
Is it going to turn out that it's actually like some sort of horrible demon that the king has successfully imprisoned and we've just...
Okay, right. It was traveling around the forest. Who else would be able to survive the danger at this time? Okay. I lost you to a pack of wolves.
That's not true.
That's not true. We just saw a cutscene where you threw us to the wolves.
I mean, to be fair, like we, as a baby, we might not remember that. He can lie. That's kind of interesting.
They showed us the cutscene.
Sure, but like that's kind of interesting, right? This is something that the player might know that the character doesn't, and then when we're asked,
why didn't they set that? Why? But wouldn't you set up that scene to be ambiguous?
Yeah, or like a flashback or something.
Wouldn't you set it up so that all the stuff in the past was like this ambiguous scene of you being in the forest, picked up by wolves, maybe later on hearing that your father hadn't come back for you and had abandoned you?
That's interesting,
right?
Like, would that? Because yeah,
if we didn't know that he'd
thrown us, if we didn't know that he'd thrown us to a pack of wolves, this choice would be a lot more, like, oh my god, which of these two like powerful entities should I listen to?
So if we just seen a cutscene of a baby in the forest being found by wolves, right?
Yeah.
And then we'd started off in the game, and there was a person living with us who said, "Oh, I've been looking after you ever since ever since your father abandoned you in the forest." And then we set out knowing, what is coming.
I'm not sure if that's a bug or if that's just a real hard fight. Because firstly,
the fight. What are those? Are those angry koala bears? What's going on with those things?
I think they're angels with swords. Or statues. But first off,
I see.
The fight started when I was mid-dialogue, so I had to close the dialogue before I could start the fight.
Yeah,
and secondly,
unfortunate.
It spawned a lot of them. Oh, okay, now we've got to go through. Here's the other thing.
In fairness, I like the fact they've respawned you in this scene. I think if you'd had to go back to the beginning, that would have been quite soul-destroying.
I would say have the checkpoint after the really long cutscene, but
yeah. Okay, so I think some of the narrative, some of the choices about how to tell the story, are a bit strange. But again, we'll get to those.
But in terms of controls and things, mostly pretty good. I'm going to pull up one real gripe: is one of the dialogue selection buttons is right. So if I had seen this text before and was spamming the continue button, I would click one of these choices without wanting to.
Yeah.
But that's minor.
Yeah, it's a small thing, isn't it? So, but I mean, okay. So I would say that from your description of it, I would say that it's certainly engaging.
I don't think I'm going to be able to come in this fight. But yeah,
which is at the good level. Would you say that it's fun to play, or?
Yes. There's not a lot that I'm doing in terms of choices, right? It's see monster, spam left mouse. Other than that, there's not a lot to it. I did get like a magical wand that they seem to have stopped me using.
Yeah. So maybe I mean, my feeling is that if it's engaging, that's at the good level, and I kind of feel that that's where it is, perhaps for play.
Yes. Bug-wise, in terms of moment-to-moment bugs, we've not really noticed any other than like the dialogue maybe not closing when it should.
And the good level says there may still be some very minor bugs, so I think it's fine. I think it's okay at that level.
All right, story-wise.
Okay, right. So what's going with this story? So what do you say, son? So we join the king. We'll pay for this and go against every strong, mighty creature that you did not help.
Aha, but I did help all of them. In your face, spirit of the nature. 3 souls. You've betrayed the forest.
You betrayed the forest. Banish you from the forest, and you shall not return. All right? Your time weakened from battle and disgrace to the kingdom.
Now, hang on. Am I a disgrace to the kingdom? Because I just helped the king. So I think I'm not a disgrace to the kingdom.
No, I think you're the hero of the kingdom. You're a disgrace to the forest.
Oh, that's interesting. So,
okay.
Is that the end?
That's the end. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just locked here and I can't.
Yeah.
Okay, that's kind of interesting. Like a little playable epilogue. If I'm being charitable, and we couldn't figure out how to restart it if I'm being uncharitable. It's kind of an interesting way of ending it, though. Can I, if I pause and go to quit? Oh, hey, we can go to the title screen. Brilliant.
You can. So, look, let's go through some of the other bits. I know whether you want to go through and perhaps make some other choices.
So we'll get to this in a moment, but I'm not sure how many or how impactful those choices are.
No, well, that's where I want to go through and try some other ones. Okay, well, let's think about this. So, game world to story. So we're thinking about the story engine now, and we're interested in whether the game world, what you're playing, impacts the story, and to what extent the story impacts the game world. So if you think about choices you make in the game world and how they change the story.
So in terms of moment-to-moment gameplay, my choices are collecting souls and killing monsters. Neither of those really have a big impact on the story as far as I can tell, other than not having enough souls to afford.
No. So you've got, as you said, you've got a couple of minor things. So you've got a couple of places where, like you said, you need to have collected certain things in order to progress in the story. And I think you would also say that at the end, when you're faced with the choice with the Guardian of the Forest, oh no, that's not really game stuff, is it? I was thinking that the creatures you haven't tamed have come back to you, but you tame them
in like every time there's a big choice, it sort of immediately becomes a pause the gameplay. It's time to make a story choice, which isn't necessarily like a terrible thing in and of itself. It just means that they're going to do better on one of these categories than the other. I think so. Let's banish the wolf, and again, banish, not kill. So this is fine.
But you know, we did ask them explicitly.
We still got the
pickaxe.
Wanted
to have.
So why does the wolf having a pickaxe matter? Why can't we just find the pickaxe?
Yeah,
Sorry.
That is a bit strange. There's the white fox who runs off. So a pass would be a few sparse or minor examples of where the game world impacts the story. A poor would be some support for story elements in the game, but the game world has no real impact on the story.
Would you say we're maybe between the two there?
I'm really struggling. I'm trying to think of other examples where things you do in the game impact the story. But you pick stuff up through the dialogues, you don't pick them up in the game, and that has no effect. It really is just the souls, isn't it?
It seems to be. Like, they definitely could do some things with this. Like, for example, when you fight the wolf or something, if or the boss wolf, if it stops attacking and then you decide to keep attacking it as part of the gameplay to make that choice, you don't have to throw that.
or
There we
just
go.
putting items in the environment that you might find, and if you find them, it gives you additional choices.
Yeah, like that pickaxe
That's
actually. So
the kind of
you
thing.
know, you go exploring, you find that pickaxe, and now you can get into this cave to get more of the story, or you have to go a different route or something.
Yeah, something like that. But there's nothing, unfortunately. So I think it's halfway between the two, right? There is not a few sparse or minor examples. There is one minor example. So story to game world. So this is where the story changes the state of the game world and what's going on. So there are a few more examples of this, I think. So there's certainly the one at the end where you get two different fights depending on what choice you make. Right, so that is definitely there.
We've obviously got
Um,
the like if you tame the creatures, then they help you in combat.
yep.
If you
So
banish
so
the
this, yeah,
creatures, you get more powerful attacks for some reason.
yeah,
But again, nice sort of what's the word? Not consequence of it, but I guess balancing act. So if you've got less
yes,
things helping you in combat, you're strong. You're personally stronger in combat.
yeah, yeah. That's quite nice, really. So so satisfactory would be some examples of where the story impacts the game world. A good would be a number of examples, and they do it in an important way. Um, there are a number of examples.
Yep.
Is it particularly important?
The slightly weird thing that I'm noticing is that by banishing everything and going for like the evil option, I'm becoming more
Yeah.
powerful, so I'm more likely to be able to defeat that final boss and go for the good
Well,
option.
let's see what happens.
But yeah, that's
I think that they're not particularly important consequences.
not dramatically, no.
Um, so maybe halfway between the two.
What does the climbing glove do?
I mean, love.
Is
That's
that effectively
interesting.
just the key to the next area? Fellow traveller, please, I beg you, do you have any Brit? So here's an example of, I guess, a story choice that has another story. Like this will be like, I guess, one of your branching decisions, right? If we take the ring, the
Yeah,
goblin attacks us immediately, or we can give him some bread,
yeah. Okay, interesting.
and he gives us something.
So that's a story example that has a game consequence, right?
Well, it's a story thing that has a story consequence that has a game consequence in a way, but yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we get
Okay, so it's
this
still.
critical
I was trying to
hit.
think if there's any. I was trying to think if there's any sort of game to story elements there, but I don't think there are. All right. Well, let's go on and
Yeah.
talk about agency.
Okay.
So this is like the richness of choices. So this at this point, it's worth thinking about the structure. So basically, they've got a structure in their game notes, and it says it says that you've got a choice with the first merchant for the diamond ring or the bread. Then you get the choice to tame the wolf or not. Then you get whether you tame the bat or not. Then you get the second merchant, where you gain a wand or gain a weapon power up. Then you tame the spider or not. Then there's a little bit of stuff around the goblin, depending on whether you have the diamond ring or not. And if you do, you have to fight the goblin. Then they said there you follow the fox and you have do you climb the ladder?
Was that what that was?
Not. Is that what that thing is?
So I did
wonder.
see a ladder, and I didn't know if I could.
And then if you do, you fight more guards. Otherwise, you fight more guards.
Okay.
Not quite sure. Then do you tame the injured fox?
I didn't see the injured fox.
No, I didn't see the injured fox. And then do you join the king? And I think I was a bit confused there, but I think it's because they said join the king, but the guardian is the one that gives you the choice effectively. So if you don't, then you have to beat the king, and if you do, then you have to beat your dead creatures. If you beat the king, you become the king, and if you beat the dead creatures, the guardian sends you back to the base camp. Oh wow!
Just
that was slaughter.
This is what you get for banishing all of the forest creatures. You get way better.
Yeah.
And see now, despite the fact that I banished all of
stick.
the things, I get the good ending.
Yeah, it's a bit strange, isn't it?
And yeah, I'm going home. still. Oh, that's kind of nice. I like that all of the stuff that we found on our adventure is on the walls. That's kind of
It's
a
on
nice
board.
little touch.
That's
I
cute.
like that.
Yeah, we'll get to some of that. I think actually for their storytelling techniques, they've got some nice stuff going on, but we'll get to that in a second. So in terms of the richness of choices, um, we do have quite a few choices offered to us,
Are they interesting choices?
but are the interesting choices? So and be very clear what interesting choices are. Interesting choices are choices where we are making an informed decision, where there's some kind of internal conflict. Right. So in other words, it's not obvious what we should be doing, and we're not making the choice blind. And the problem here is that I'm not sure that the consequences of our choices are particularly obvious when we, so like one, for example, do you want to take the diamond ring or the bread? It's like, well, why would we take one or the other, really? That's a sort of a blind choice.
Because if they had framed that slightly differently, like he offers to trade you the stuff for some bread, versus it's like, yeah, you can have the. I will take the bread, or I will rob him for the ring.
Yes.
At the very least, that adds like another dimension to it. So it's like, oh, okay, I'm making some sort of moral choice here. So he's only offering the bread, but I can shake him down for that, and that will probably have consequences for me later.
Or at the end, when we're offered to join the king, the problem is that we know the king is, no good, basically, because he chucked us to the wolves. So again, we talked about this, but if they'd set that up to make that more of a grey choice, so who do we trust? Who do we go for?
Or as you say,
then,
if like we'd had more choices, more opportunities throughout the gameplay to explore and discover more clues about the story, and that we could then use to inform that choice. Yeah.
So that's what I think they should have done. Is you're gradually learning the truth about what happened. And when you get to the end, you then may or may not have enough information to make an informed choice about that point.
I mean, it works for Columbo, so...
Yeah. I mean, it feels to me the past would be some interesting choices, but only a few interesting choices. And a satisfactory would be a number of interesting choices. And I think what we have is a number of choices, but very fewer interesting choices.
Yeah, I think you're probably right, unfortunately, which sort of puts them in the middle.
Sits between the two. I just realised, of course, that in their game notes they did say a little bit about the story engine, so it might just be worth checking that before we move on.
Mm-hmm.
How does the story engine work? How does the narrative impact the game world? And how does the game world impact the narrative? So for game world to narrative, they said the merchants offer the player different items that lead you to become stronger, changing your battle strategy. A versatile weapon may not require as many creatures serving you. Right, so
wait, sorry, say that again. If the projectile weapon needs what?
How does the game world impact the story? They've said the merchants offer you different items, but that's not game world to story. That's almost the other way around.
Yeah,
I think. The second point was we have a global resource called souls. If you run out of souls used them badly, you may get punished for not having good karma, for not bringing the bosses with you. So we did say about the souls.
But do you need the souls to bind the bosses? Because that wasn't readily apparent.
Yeah, it does. It says that's what it says. You use the souls to tame the bosses.
And equally, the problem is that collecting the souls or not isn't like a huge choice, because if you're being attacked by enemies, you've got to kill the enemies. And if they're dropping power ups, why would you not pick them? It's not.
Why would you not get
like
them? Yeah.
It's not a choice in that sense. And it's kind of difficult to avoid doing by accident, really.
Yeah. So they've got 2 more points. So the third one is that different environments increase mob health, speed, and damage. So the player understands the deeper they go, the harder the story becomes to fulfill. Again, I don't think that's game world impacting story, really.
That's just standard like pacing level design.
That. And the last one is the ultimatum at the end of the game allows you to join the king or free the guardian. If you are not loyal to the forest, you end up fighting your banished creatures and will still be injured beyond repair. So the problem here is that this is supposed to be game world to story. So I just no, that's not right either, because actually it's your choices. What's affecting you is your choices whether to tame the creatures. not your actions within the game space. So I don't think that helps us much. For story to game world, we did say there are a few things here. But they say, the narrative takes the player through different environments, forcing them to take on many different enemies. I don't think that's particularly valid, because, you don't have a lot of choice, really. The narrative is driving you forward, but you're not getting a narrative imperative to make particular choices. So they're not giving you a narrative reason to go into the dangerous cave, for example. Or that's the way that you would engage people in that way. Player interactions with different NPCs, open dialogues, and trigger events like a battle scene. Allow you to progress to the next zone. And the flashback at the beginning and backstory, including your old master, develop a feeling of mystery. So I don't think they've explained this very well at all. I mean, I think we did explain that we think that there are things you do in the story that clearly have impact in the game world, but I don't think they've really understood what that means. So I think that may be part of their problem, is they've not really understood what we were quite after.
Okay, so shall we move on to pacing?
Pacing, to techniques, yeah. So pacing is interesting, isn't it? So what do you think about the pacing?
So in terms of, as I just mentioned, sort of level design and like mechanical pacing works pretty well. Yep. You start off by fighting a couple of wolves at a time. You finish off by fighting a giant guy with like thousands of angel statue things. Yeah.
So there's good sort of mechanical, an antagonist at the end, right? Yeah. Gives you a
narratively. Yeah. We've got some ascendant pacing as well, because again, we go from humble forest beginning to fighting either the king or the spirit of nature itself. The problem is we don't have a good benchmark from where we're starting off, because we don't know who we are or why we're here, or why we're leaving our house this morning. Did we set off to come on a quest and we somehow stumble into fighting the king? Or
yes. So I mean, a good would be ascending pacing with a clear final peak. And my actual feeling is, if they'd set it up at the beginning, they probably would have achieved that.
Right? Yes, very much so.
A satisfactory would be some ascending pacing. But so I think maybe they're halfway between the two. I don't think the pacing's too bad, really. It's just, as you said, it's unclear as to why you're doing what you're doing.
I think that's the thing.
So your starting off point is
the pacing overall is actually pretty good. It's just they're lacking just that little bit of context.
Yeah. Now, techniques is the thing I think they've done quite well on, actually. So techniques is essentially, how many game writing techniques have they used? So we've got the flashback at the beginning. So that's a nice little narrative device just to kind of set things up.
Yep.
We've got cutscenes, and we've also got a little bit of environmental storytelling, right? Whether it be the fox appearing and running off into the cave to tell you where to go, or even little touches like you mentioned, the trophies at the end going up on your wall, right? So yeah, I think they've
I think they've done pretty well at that.
Yes, they have. Yeah. So a good would be successful use of more than one game writing technique, and I think they're definitely there. The excellent would require them to have mechanics supporting the theme. So which of the three do you think this is?
I would guess it is the shepherd and the lion.
It must be, right? So this is the idea of the shepherd who helps the lion, and then later on the lion is he's thrown to the lions, but the lion saves him, basically.
I think
so. Yeah, it must be about help coming back to. Yeah, good deeds coming back to help you, effectively.
Yeah, so we can see that it's there, but as we already said, the actual gameplay mechanics don't hugely support that. Some of the choices do, but the moment-to-moment mechanics sort of don't quite. So I don't think it quite hits the excellent there.
No. So the mechanics here are essentially the attacking the creatures.
Yeah, hack and slash.
I suppose you are gaining the companions, but it's not really that feeling that they come back and help you later. As you said, that's done through the story. So I think for here, the storytelling techniques, that places them at the good level. So it just struck me something else we did forget a little bit when we talked about agency. was the fact, and I think this was because we were talking at the lower levels, and that's only about the interesting choices. But in terms of managing agency, they did have some methods to manage agency, right? So they have some false choices,
Yes.
or not even false choices, but choices that are set up so they're clearly not choices. They also have a lot of sort of foldbacks going on, where you make a choice and it comes back straight away.
Yes, although
to drive you through.
In a way, I don't think that necessarily is a good thing in the way that they've done some of it. So, for example, I can go through banishing all of the forest creatures and then still side with the forest guardian in the end with no consequence.
Yeah. So I think what they're what they're lacking there is this idea of cumulative agency, where the decisions you make come back to the end. So maybe, if you haven't saved the forest creatures, the guardian wouldn't give you the choice, for example.
Yeah, exactly.
It would treat you differently. So I kind of think that I was wondering whether it was worth revising that agency sort of mark, but actually I think it's probably about right. It's still sitting between sort of a pass and satisfactory.
I can climb the ladder.
Okay, so there you are. Okay, so this is the ladder. This is what happens if you go up the ladder, is it?
Yes.
Okay, so is this like a new
Okay.
area where you fight the guards?
So why would I not just go straight to the king? Anyway, yes.
No, yeah, okay. And again, this feels like one of those things about agency. It's like there's just these bits where you wander off. Oh, this is the bit where you meet the fox. Are you going to tame the injured fox?
Okay, so so you explore a bit and you get an additional companion.
Yeah. So okay, I don't think that changes things radically.
No.
It's the same, all the same good things and all the same bad things as before. Right. So the last thing is feedback. So we basically said, tell us what feedback you got and how you address the feedback. So they've written 3 things. So they've said, we were told we'd be quite modular with our environments. We've used 3 main themes that got more extreme and matched our storyline of corruption. I guess what? Forest, cave, castle?
I guess so.
Not entirely sure what the feedback was there. Yeah. But okay. We were told not to have as many pets in the game, 8, as the quality and detail would take a lot more work and might not be necessarily a good story. So we had less pets that dropped special items. Yeah. I mean, I think that was good advice.
I don't know how the special items necessarily relate to the animals, though. But yeah, I definitely.
And then the last,
purely in terms of scale,
yeah.
Cutting down from 8 to 4.
Yeah.
Good move.
Yeah. And the last one was killing bosses could reward the player in physical damage rather than nothing, so the character can play both ways. So clearly, when you originally had the choice to tame the pets or not, if you didn't tame them, you just sent them off, and there was no reason not to tame them, right? I think that has worked, actually, hasn't it? I think that would have been a real problem.
In a way, yes. I don't think they necessarily make that clear to the player until after they've made the choice, though. Like, if it was a case of, tame this companion and have it fight alongside you, or sacrifice it and consume its power, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
It would have thrown that sort of moral dimension into it as well to make it a bit more of an interesting choice and given you some idea of the consequences.
So a satisfactory would be feedback was addressed and the changes have been somewhat successful. And a pass would be feedback was addressed, but the changes have had limited success. So, of the 3 items, I don't think the first one is a piece of actionable feedback. But the second one, don't have as many pets and streamline it. Yes, that worked. The third one, giving people the physical damage if they, rather than just releasing the pets. Yes, I think that worked. Perhaps not as well as could have been intended if they flagged it, right? But somewhat successful probably describes it. So I think the satisfactory is probably okay for feedback.
Okie doke. All right, let's move on to our next game. Okay, and our next game is Chad the Adventurer and the Goblin. So, another nice title screen. Got some little traditional green signs and some lovely music.
Looks nice. I like the I quite like the use of the lake there to frame the thing. That's attractive. A brave hero and an honourable monster.
What goes around comes around. Another day, another adventure.
Another day, another adventure.
So I'm not scrolling through this text. This is all going automatically. Which, on the one hand,
this is a nice little,
nice little cutscene kind of thing. On the other, some people don't read as fast as others. Okay. For example, I was talking instead of reading that. So what were the controls? WSD?
Yes, we're there. So again, nice to be told. It's good. And I like the little dots showing us that there's someone to talk to. Weather's nice today. Are you short on cash? You should pop by the guild.
Now that's interesting. There's a very tiny amount of storytelling there, right? Are you short on cash again?
Yes.
Not just are you short on cash, you should go to the guild. That's a very subtle thing, but that tells you a little bit about this character.
Yeah. Are you short on cash, you useless grifter? Go to the guild. Okay, and again, nice little agency control walking down the path there.
Yeah, again, I guess, bit of a weird camera jump there.
It's a good job we wanted to go to the guild,
so
if we wanted to go somewhere else, we'd be in trouble, right?
But we come out of the house, and ultimately we have to go left. But the first thing we see is on the right, so we go there, and then we hit the end of the screen.
There's a dead end.
So we speak to the person, and then we go all the way back. So again, nice sort of very similar to the coursework one, sort of how do you make sure the player know where they need to go? So that's kind of neat. Hello.
Okay, blacksmith. We sell weapons. Okay, we haven't got any money. Sarah told us.
It's alright, he doesn't have any stuff.
That saves our embarrassment. Excellent.
What's the opposite of a nitpick, where you've got a really tiny compliment? Because I've got another one that the same button that I use to start a dialogue is the same button I use to progress a dialogue. So I don't have to
just progress really easily. Yeah.
I don't have to move my hand off my keyboard. I don't have to click a tiny button. That's good design. That is.
They're quality of life improvements, right? It's just making it slightly better. All these little ways. What? Gathering strawberries quest for a small reward.
Please ignore the tile set of this guild.
Yeah.
I'll come back later. Why would we come back later? There's nothing else to do. So yes, please. The commission needs 8 strawberries. 8
strawberries. Found the frost that time. Okay. Go and find 8 strawberries. We haven't decided what to pay you, but go and do it anyway. Yeah.
The gig economy.
I've had summer jobs like that. Right. Okay.
Can I go out this way? Was there a forest outside of town? I didn't see one.
I didn't see one.
Ooh, I don't like having to walk all the way back along because we walk pretty slow. Can I just walk off the screen?
Do you think we'll be able to go off the side of the screen now, you reckon? Sarah got anything to say for herself?
Maybe we could have done this to start with.
What happens if you say no and go and talk to Sarah, see what she says?
I can't seem to say yes. And pressing E doesn't do anything.
Okay.
Okay, just highlight is a bit weird.
Okay.
Ooh, we got hearts.
So much for that.
Ooh,
what are those in the distance?
That's nice.
Okay. Yeah.
Arrow keys.
Use arrow keys to attack. Good fight. I'm only here to collect strawberries. Can you attack? You haven't got a sword. What happens if you? You have got a sword.
I've got a sword now. Okay, so again, setting up the fact that hey, you don't actually have to kill these slimes. You're picking strawberries, not murdering slime. Ooh, a heart. Don't need the heart. Ooh, that's not a slime.
No, that's some sort of ogre thing. Okay, so you got the strawberry.
I'm unsure if I'm
Is that dead end?
Making a particular moral choice here, or if I'm just making the game harder for myself.
Yeah.
This guy has a club and is trying to hit me. I feel like I'm within my rights to stab him now. Ooh, interesting camera work. Is that because this is a maze? Oh, it is, isn't it?
It is. It seems a little bit.
Why do they all have to have mazes, Dave? This isn't actually a maze. This is a labyrinth. Oh no, it's technically not.
There you go.
I'm the sort of boring person
another route there.
that will be pedantic about the difference between labyrinths and mazes.
Yeah, there was definitely a little maze element there.
There
was a little,
there was
tiny
one
little
dead
extra. One dead end. Yeah.
How many strawberries do? All right, you know what? You woke up this morning and chose violence, not me.
How many strawberries do you have?
I was just about to ask you that. Not enough, apparently. Oh, there we go. 3 more.
Okay.
That's 1.
So
a strawberry counter would have been nice.
Yep. While you're collecting strawberries, should we just say a little bit about the presentation?
Yeah, let's do that. Oh, there we go. That's the last one.
Because it's actually rather nice, I think. You've got some music going on. You've got a few sound effects just to highlight when you pick stuff up.
Say
information.
We've got the hearts. We don't necessarily have the strawberry counter, but we've got an idea of when we're taking damage, when they're taking damage. I would minor nitpick. The music maybe doesn't necessarily it feels a bit mellow for running around a forest full of orcs.
Yeah. Yeah. It's that grumpy noise. An injured goblin. I hope I don't die here.
I could kill it.
Right. Maybe I should save it. You're going to save the goblin. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, so are you going to get involved? So before you save the goblin, so I think that presentation here, professional, good would be professional, complete and effective graphics, and I think they're definitely there.
Yep.
But a bit like the first game, impactful is complete, effective, and appealing, and I think they're kind of either there or halfway there.
I think they're probably halfway there again. I think it's there's definitely improvements that could be made, but they're all relatively minor improvements.
Yeah. Okay, goblin can talk. So we have actually fought a goblin, so that's kind of interesting.
Well, a lot of goblins have tried to fight us. I've been trying really hard not to.
Not to fight them. Your third, I can't hold on for much longer. Save the goblin, kill the goblin. Why would we kill the goblin?
We kill it? At worst, we'd probably ignore it, right?
Sure, I guess.
Bestow this charm. Oh, there we go.
Bestow this charm of my clan.
Look at that story choice impacting our gameplay.
Charm. There we go.
We've unlocked a dash. What would we have got if we killed it? I know. I guess we'll have to play it again and find out.
Okay.
No more mischief.
Make it back home. Oh, there you are.
I can't dash.
Sarah again. Hi, Sarah. Did you not talk to Sarah?
Really interesting. Let's see.
Yeah, dots and everything.
Hey, look at that. Would you say that's gameplay affecting story? Different stages of the game where
yeah, a little bit, definitely.
Getting different dialogue from the same NPCs.
Yeah. Okay, yep, so we're definitely getting that. We're getting story prompts are changing according to what we've done in the game. Yep.
Have you got anything new yet?
We're still wanting money. Check in with the guild. Let's go and claim our reward for our 8 strawberries. Okay, I'll reward you with an improved weapon. Okay.
Can I get a...
So we get the reward from the blacksmith.
So, also, minor compliment. It doesn't just repeat the entire dialogue again once you've already heard the dialogue.
Yes.
They say, now pay again.
Yep.
Slight upgrade.
Slight upgrade. That's a slight upgrade. That's a salesman for you. Would you like this thing that's very slightly better? Oh, here we go. Another event, story event. We should have known. So again, this is the game world responding to the story. So an ominous enemy been brewing. Okay, so we have a new quest.
I mean, I was just there.
To participate. Okay.
How? Ooh, I don't know. Has time passed? Maybe that's.
I think.
Otherwise, ooh, there's
I
lots
think
of
that's
people.
the idea. Everyone's been into. Oh no! Yeah.
Oh, at least I don't have to go all the way upstairs. Oh, I can't talk to these people. Okay.
We can just talk to this person.
On
Hello,
the-
Chad. Need your help.
Interesting.
I'm not strong enough.
I'm going to try that. I'm going to see if I can hustle some extra
Yeah.
weapon upgrades out of them before I go on this quest.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, we just skipped that quest. Whoops. Bad ending one.
Bad ending.
That's just a game over screen. That's not a.
Oh dear.
That's not an
That's a
interesting
shame.
choice.
That's a shame. The ancient monster was revived and his town was destroyed. Back to the main menu. Are you ready to go and collect some more strawberries,
I
Tom?
feel like we've gone. Like, we went from could you get me 8 strawberries to can you purge this horrifying eldritch magic and stop the dark god monster from returning?
And then we've said, well, I don't think I'm quite strong enough. And they've gone, okay, fair enough, don't worry. Oh no, we've all died. Okay, all right.
We're
Look.
literally the only person in the guild.
Right, I'm going to leave you getting some strawberries while we talk about meaningful play. So meaningful play is mechanics, controls, and any bugs. Not seeing any bugs. Mechanics and controls. So you've got collecting the strawberries. You've got obviously the narrative interface, the dialogue. You've got fighting the monsters. So there's a fair few narratives, mechanics there. Controls, I presume, are okay.
Yes, the combat controls are a little bit. There's a little something that seems to be lacking with them, and I'm struggling to put my finger on it. I think it's the fact that you've got to be so close to the monsters to attack that you.
Okay.
Well, have a look when I'm going to go murder a few slimes
So-
for no reason.
I mean, I'm watching you play here, but my guess is that a good would be engaging, right? A reasonably complex game with multiple mechanics and smooth controls, and that feels like where you are. An excellent would be fun, but I don't know. I'm kind of you're engaged, you're playing the game, but I'm not getting the sense that you're really enthused about the kind of ludic aspects of this.
The gameplay is fine, but you're right that it's like there's a few elements where it's lacking, and I think that's partly due to the pace of it. Like the walk speed is quite slow, the attack animation is quite slow, and those things sort of pull together to a way that is sort of like, okay, I guess I'll go and get these strawberries rather than I get to go kill some orcs or whatnot.
Yeah.
But that doesn't.
You're really playing as a kind of you're playing as a marauding adventurer this time, right? It's killing everything on sight.
Yeah, except for the one that actually has a chat with me. But yeah, broadly speaking, it's good.
So, if we talked about the story engine, is we're looking for whether the game world affects the story and whether the story affects the game world. Game world affecting the story. What examples do we have there? So
if we're talking
things you do in the game space.
So, depending on how you see it, being able to like repeatedly talk to the same NPC gets you a different dialogue, the first time at least.
Yep.
Beyond that, I haven't seen any consequence for killing all of the slimes versus not killing all of the slimes yet.
Oh, I think so. It's worth saying what are you doing in the game world? So you're exploring, you're picking up strawberries, and you're fighting monsters. Do any of those things impact the story? And I know that exploring will cause you have to unlock bits of the story by exploring, but I don't think that's quite what we mean.
There's a difference between
It's
exploration and progression there, I would say.
Yes, exactly. So is there anything where having discovered a particular area, you get different story options, or depending on how many strawberries you picked up, you get different story options, or depending on whether you killed the monsters or not? Because I thought that's where they were going, actually.
But then it's weird. They have that sort of setup where it's like, go and collect these strawberries, and you don't have to kill the slimes. You're only here to collect strawberries. But then they have this very explicit, oh no, a wounded monster.
Yeah.
Here, here's your big story choice, which kind of undermines that thing that they had set up.
I'm checking their game notes, and it looks to me like there isn't any real consequence actually to whether or not you kill the monsters or not.
Which
So
is a shame.
I think that was a really obvious place where they could have done that, right? And it might have changed something like the options you had when you discovered the goblin, or perhaps the options you were given when you were given the quest, right? Whether you have a reputation for being a monster slayer or not, that could be. But there just isn't anything. So that's a pity. Is there anything at all that you do in the game world that affects the story? Let's see what they said.
Not that I can tell. Yeah.
How does the game world impact the narrative? Both available paths will impact how the player has to play against the final boss. So they're talking about whether you save the goblin or not. However, depending on if the player defeats the boss, there'll be a different ending. If the player has chosen a pacifist choice, there is also an ending that can be triggered when the player is losing against the boss. Ah, okay. The player can also make a choice that would lead to bad ending.
Hang on, is the pacifist choice killing that one goblin or not?
It looks like it is. So it looks like you can defeat the it's a golem. Defeat the golem without the goblin's help. The goblin helps you, or you get defeated by the goblin. Those are the three endings, right?
I mean, on the one hand, small game prototype, but on the other, after an exciting adventure, Chad arrives at the final room.
Yeah.
I feel like you could have maybe
okay.
skipped the strawberries and shown the exciting adventure instead, but oh well.
Let's wait. Hang on this until you've had this, because I want to know whether you murdering all those monsters is going to affect or be referenced at all in this, right? Because at the moment, I think they're heading towards an absent for the game world to story. We've not seen any examples at all, I don't think.
I would say the fact that NPCs don't just repeat the same dialogue over and over and over is very small, but it is a thing.
Is an example, yeah. So okay, so that's kind of like that. That would lift it up to perhaps poor, which would be a shame because these elements again are really nicely put together.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure I saved the goblin. I haven't seen the goblin yet. Yeah, the combat system is fine, but it's not hugely fun.
But did you save the goblin?
I thought I did. Ooh. Alright. The fact that it's got different attack animations and different telegraphing is pretty neat.
That's nice, actually.
That was a big hit. It's a shame that I don't know which direction it's going to go, though. Although we haven't.
Oh, I
was going to say we've not smashed straight to a game over screen, so I suspect.
Here we go. I think here comes the goblin.
I wonder if that's a supposed to lose fight, or if we could defeat it without the goblin. That's kind of interesting. Is that gameplay affecting story? If we didn't die there, we wouldn't get this cutscene.
Yes. So obviously, one of the options is to try and defeat the golem without the goblin's help. True ending. Again, I never like the idea of a true ending. It's like, well done, you found the true ending, meaning the one ending that we meant you to have.
Certainly, bad ending one.
Yes, I think you're right.
Is literally a bad ending. Yeah. But I think if you can defeat that boss without dying, and that effectively skips that cutscene where the goblin rushes in to save you,
then
that's definitely
an
example.
That is definitely an example. Yeah. So the problem is we've got to go all the way there again.
And I've got to be able to beat it in one try.
Can I suggest that we have a go at doing that while we go through the rest of it?
Yeah.
You don't save the goblin this time. Right?
Oh, interesting. No, the problem is I need to save the goblin and defeat the thing without dying.
Without the goblin.
Because I want the goblin to be able to come and save me, but I don't want it to
yeah,
need
good
to.
point. Good point. All right, so we'll leave off on that one until we find out. But that's the one example we can think might still be in here, and it's not clear from the diagram whether that's the case, right? And it's not listed on their
Now, interestingly,
if
story.
the player is, there's also
What about story to game world?
Well, it does say if they do say if the player has chosen the pacifist choice, save the goblin, there is also an ending that can be triggered when the player is losing against the boss. So I think they have identified that as an example. Let's take it the other way around then. Story to game world. So we've got more stuff here, right? So
do we? Because this is the thing. I'm not sure we do. What sort of story choices do we make? We choose the goblin, but it doesn't actually affect the gameplay.
Well, I'm just thinking about it. It unlocks progression to the game, right? So,
all right.
So before you've picked up the strawberry quest, I don't think you can leave.
Correct. Okay.
And then also once we complete the quest, we get the new option of going to fight the golem. So those are examples.
The story.
You're right.
Progresses.
We're not offered a lot of other choices, right? I mean, the other example obviously is whether or not we save the goblin, and then the goblin comes in to help us, and that's a mechanical fight at the end.
So this is something that I was about to bring up. Anyway, is that we've only got one choice really, and that's save goblin or don't save goblin. And they're going to argue that you can decide not to save the world from the golem. That's not a choice. That's just a game over screen.
That's not a choice. No, it is. So look, I think we've got a number of examples. They're a bit funky, but they're there.
Mm-hmm.
So satisfactory would be some examples of where the story impacts the game world, and then good would be a number of examples where the story impacts the game world in important ways. And you might argue even that because the story progresses you through the space, you might even argue it's sort of maybe halfway between those two.
I think progressing the story is a bit of a low bar, but potentially.
It is, but you've got that, and then you've got the goblin coming in at the end.
But again, that's like a thing that happens in cutscene. Weirdly, it's story affecting story, not story affecting game world.
You're right, aren't you? Yeah, of course, because the goblin doesn't come in to actually help you. You just, you're quite right. So it is just the progression. So I think that would be a satisfactory then in that case. Kind of like there are some examples, but it's just the progression. Let's think about agency then. This is about the richness of choices, the number of choices. Are they interesting? How do they manage player agency? Those kinds of things. We've got one choice, haven't we?
Yes.
Save the goblin, not save the goblin.
One proper choice. Like technically there is a choice, but the choice is the same as do you want to end the game early?
Yeah, the bad ending one they call that is I agree. So that thing where do you want to save the world or do you want to just quit? Just not really a choice.
Oh yeah, I've got a dash. I forgot I had a dash.
So I think.
Oh, hang on. Sorry. Back to thing. Story to game world. That's the example of it. We unlock a dash if we save the goblin.
Of course. You're right.
I can't remember, or rather, I don't know what happens if we kill the goblin because I've still not tried that yet.
I think we can sort of. I still don't think it counts as quite being up in the important ways, but I think it means we can put them halfway between.
Yeah, I will agree with that.
Satisfactory and good, yeah.
But yeah, back to richness of choices.
Agency.
Right now,
we have a problem.
We've got few choices, and that agency is somewhat problematic. They present a choice, and they're like, you can do this, and if you choose it, they punish you for it.
Yeah. So poor would be few choices. Player agency is problematic, and that does feel really hard, doesn't it? We've effectively got one meaningful choice, and even then, it's not enormously well set up. Let's talk about techniques then. That's pacing and the actual techniques they use to tell the story. So what do you think about the pacing? we've got ascending pacing, haven't we? We've got kind of we start off exploring the town, then we go off in and we collect some strawberries and we get attacked by monsters, and then we have a boss fight. Again, it's a little bit granular, but it is there.
It's very, what's the word, like a step graph, if you like. We go from strawberries to village ending boss monster with a pretty noisy clunk. Yeah. It's kind of nice that they have the go back to the village, chat to people, and then go out and do gameplay again. But it's definitely ascendant, but it's a bit clunky. All right, let's see.
And the other problem, I think, is that it's all mechanical, really. Well, I suppose that's what you're saying, isn't it?
I was going to say, the boss fight's kind of nice because it has like a noticeable second phase, which is, again, like gameplay pacing, pretty good. Story pacing it's definitely there. It's just a bit chunky.
So satisfactory would be some ascending pacing, and good would be ascending pacing with a clear final peak.
I mean, it's got a clear final peak.
Yeah, I think. So it's just whether or not we think that the ascending pacing, as you said, it just. I think because it goes through these three stages, there are clearly kind of three acts. It's only a small game, right? But there are these kind of three acts that make sense. So I think we can say it's got ascending pacing with a clear peak. So that takes us on to the techniques. That's how they told the story.
The cutscenes are very nice.
We've got some nice cutscenes. We've got the dialogue. So that's two techniques.
Yep.
I don't really spot any environmental storytelling. I suppose see, the villagers all come out, don't they, when you get into the second phase?
Yeah.
So there's a little bit more. So they've done some nice stuff there. So that would put them at least up at the good. Successful use of more than one game writing technique. To be excellent, though, we want the mechanics to support the theme. So this is another example of the Lion and the Shepherd. And again, do the mechanics support the theme? What are you actually doing? What you're actually doing is collecting strawberries, killing monsters. What the good ending? Did the Goblin turn up?
No. And this goes back to what we were saying before, that the mechanics don't impact the story, because the theme rather, because the one sort of on-theme element doesn't happen within gameplay. It happens outside of it.
Yeah, so I think we're limited with the techniques. I still think they've done well. They've used multiple techniques to tell the story, but they just haven't really engaged with the mechanics, thinking about how the mechanics could contribute really. Which takes us to feedback. So they said they have 4 items. The first one was to make the pacifist path more interesting and to make it impact the gameplay. Mm-hmm. So their choice was to add a new skill, right?
Oh, the dash, which I still forgot to use.
The dash, you still forgot to use. Yeah, yes.
So I don't know if it was particularly impactful because I could get away without using it, but fair enough.
Number 2 was to focus on the minimum viable product. So they changed their focus to the core aspects rather than add new features. I suspect that's probably worked because this is a rather nice, complete game. I
was going to say, as much as I teased them for just having the thing saying, after a big adventure, he got to the final boss fight. That's exactly the sort of thing they needed to do to make sure that they got it all wrapped up.
Yeah. And good story and dialogue changes based on the player. And they said, our state machine keeps track of how the player plays to change the interactions and actions available to the player. That's interesting. NPCs might treat the player differently.
If what? I haven't noticed anything as that.
No, I'm just reading their text again. That's what we were saying, right? Is that we wanted to see that in the game, but we've not seen any evidence of that. They've not told us about it in the story engine section. It appears to be. Yeah. No, I've not seen any evidence of that at all.
again, unless they mean where if you speak to them once and then speak to them again, they don't just repeat the same level of dialogue. But
yeah,
then
possibly.
again, I haven't gotten through this bit without killing a single monster yet, so.
Yeah, okay.
But I think.
And the last one.
Yeah, I think we haven't seen any particular evidence of that.
The last one was interesting choices that make the player think morally. The player has to choose whether to kill the goblin or not without knowing the rewards behind each choice.
But again, there's part of the problem with like these straight up good evil choices is nobody makes the evil choice because lol it's evil. They do it because they do it because it's easier, and the choice was click one button or click the other button. So there's no reason to pick the evil choice.
You've got to give people a reason to pick the evil choice, right? You've got to tempt them, basically, into behaving badly.
Which is difficult to do. Like one of the only games that I've seen that does it successfully is Star Wars, and that's because they promise you lightning powers if you be evil.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Yes. Yeah. Get all the toys with the cool kids play with, right? Otherwise, you're just lifting rocks, and who wants to do that? Yeah, it's tricky. So in terms of the feedback here, I think it's sort of fine. They said they got the one about adding the new skill, and that definitely was a good idea. But I don't think it's been entirely successful because the new skill is totally forgettable, unfortunately. Focusing on the minimum viable product is good advice, but it's very generic.
Sorry, just to go back to the skill thing. I think part of the reason it's so forgettable is because they give it to you after you need it, right? Like, it would have been super helpful to get those strawberries, but now I go back to the village, I go hand in my quest, I go back to the village, and then I have a thing, and then a cutscene, and then another cutscene, and then a boss fight. So there's a big delay between giving that skill and then it being useful.
It comes back to your point about after a long adventure, right? It's like what, and again, it is a prototype. It's difficult. We're trying to avoid them to add stuff, but they've got all the game engine things in there to just add a little bit of a level where you have to go past and fight a load of goblins before you get to the golem, right? It doesn't have to be a huge section, but it gives you a chance to try out your dash. And then it makes you feel like you've made a bit more progress. So that probably is something they should have had as a place to play it. So I think that first piece of feedback was good, and I think they've successfully implemented it. But I'm not sure if it's been entirely successful because of where they put it. The minimum viable product is perfectly good advice, but it doesn't really change the game. It's not obvious.
Like if they'd spoken about specifically what was their minimum viable product, or what did they have to trim out? That would be the sort of like
in order to make it work.
Their interpretation of that bit of feedback and how they acted on it, rather than just saying we were told to do this, so we did this.
The story and dialogue changes based on the player.
That's
noticed. Exactly what we've been looking for, but we've just not seen anything. And then interesting choices to make the player think morally. I don't think they've succeeded about that. I don't think they've given us an interesting moral choice. I think it's kind of, it's a fairly obvious choice. So I think that we've got a mixture here of stuff that's worked but has only been somewhat successful, of stuff that it's not clear how they've interpreted it, and stuff that I don't think they've done particularly well. So past would be feedback was addressed, but the changes have had limited success, and I kind of feel that's kind of where we are. Satisfactory would be feedback was addressed and the changes have been somewhat successful.
I think that feels about where we are.
Oh, you think the higher one?
Yeah. Maybe halfway between the two.
Let's do that. Great. Okay. So a nice game, really nicely put together and executed, but really needed to think more about the story engine, and in particular that game world to story element.
Okay, which brings us to the end of this game, and that brings us to the end of this batch. So thank you very much for watching, and we will see you again soon for another video.